Forward and going live now. All righty, Mr. Gregory.
Good morning and good afternoon and good evening to some. My name is Gregory Sneed and welcome to today's community briefing. It's September 2, 2021. And we are joined today by Mike Davis, and he will be sharing some information about what's going on here in the city of Los Angeles. Until then, my name is Gregory Sneed. I have a financial coaching and financial literacy training business, Lifesaver Financial Services. I help my clients to keep more of the money they make. And also some interesting news on the life insurance side. Part of the CARES Act from December adjusted the amount of money that you can now put into a life insurance policy for tax advantaged or tax exempt income. And that just came online yesterday, September 1st. So it's a great opportunity now for people to get life insurance. I'll put my information in the chat. In the meantime, we're going to hear from our queen of the community briefing, Miss Crystal Mitchell.
Good morning, everyone. Glad to have you another week. It's been a busy week. We have prayers going out to those individuals in Louisiana, and we have definitely prayers going out to those in New York that were taken completely by surprise yesterday. And let's also pray for the women in Texas. So we got a lot of praying to do. I am Crystal Mitchell. I'm the co-director of Recycling Black Dollars, as well as an entrepreneur and business consultant and coach for our small business community here in Los Angeles and sometimes nationwide. Welcome to the community briefing. This platform is here for you to share, to listen, to be inspired, to be motivated, but most importantly, to find out what's going on firsthand at the tables where our leaders and stakeholders are being informed, so that we can be a better informed community to make better decisions for our community. And this is a collaborative effort between the Recycling Black Dollars, my company, and the Black Business, excuse me, Skip Cooper and the BBA, the Black Business Association. So thank you guys all for tuning in. Make sure you go out and tell a friend and come back next week. All righty, I'm gonna turn it over. I have some phenomenal co-hosts and producers that help produce this program, and one of them is Ms. Robin Billups. So I am turning this over to her.
Good day, everyone. Always glad to be here. This week, my soapbox is the voter recall. Okay. Most people have received their, all registered voters would be receiving a mail-in vote ballot. And all I'm asking you guys to do it, if you haven't received, and make us think about it, but get that ballot and make your voice heard. This is so very critical for the state of California. It is so very critical for our day-to-day lives. I am going to be voting no on a recall because we have too much that's going on in this state between the fires and COVID and what have you. Starting over again with someone new right now is not the right time. And what I can say is this, having traveled to Missouri and to Nevada recently, what we've done here in the state of California is kept each other safe. You know, with the shutdowns and the things that Gavin Newsom has done. So, you know, you may not like him 100%, but right now he's the best that we have that's trying to protect our community. So all I'm asking you guys to do is, as the date is running down, I think it's September 14th. Yeah, is the last day that you can actually vote. But please get your ballot in and make your voice heard. I'm Robin Billups. I'm the connector with the Billups Group. I am a business advisor for corporations in the private industry, along with working with minority women-owned firms looking to do business at a higher scale. Thank you. Gregory?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. I was making sure you were finished. Okay, so it is now our pleasure to introduce Mike Davis. He is an American politician who has served in the California State Assembly, He was declared the fourth most loyal Democratic voter in the California State Legislature in the Sacramento Bee. He currently serves as the president pro tem of the City of Los Angeles Board of Public Works. Mike was born in Charlotte, North Carolina. Or North Kakalaki, as they say, right?
That's right. That's right.
And he has a Bachelor's of Arts degree in history from the University of North Carolina, Charlotte, a Master of Public Administration degree from the California State University of Northridge, and a Master of Arts degree in behavioral science with concentrations in negotiations and conflict management. That comes in handy at the City of Los Angeles, from California State University at Dominguez Hills. He is a member of the Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. I've heard of them. And he is going to share with us some wonderful information today about what's going on within our community, what's going on with the City of Los Angeles, and our political landscape as we are embroiled in some challenges from both sides of the aisle. Please join me in welcoming Mike Davis.
Thank you very much for allowing me to be on the show. And I have the greatest admiration for both Recycle Black Dollars as well as the Black Business Association, with which I've been associated for quite some time. As a member of the Board of Public Works for the City of Los Angeles, we provide not only the oversight for making sure that we supervise and maintain the infrastructure of the City of Los Angeles. That means services such as engineering services, street lighting, as well as sanitation. And in looking at these services, what we do that is critically important to the business community is that we provide contracts. We provide at the very least, $500 million of contracts per year. In addition to that, we want to make sure that of the work that we provide in this city, that those who need to have access to getting that work get it. When we look at the numbers, it really speaks to a fight that we have had for years. In 1996, they passed Proposition 209. And after 1996, we have seen a dwindling of business inclusion in our community from particularly African-American business persons. And so when I look at what it is that we do in public works, not only in supervising and managing the infrastructure on one hand, but in letting out the opportunities for work on the other hand, our biggest work and our most major focus has to be to look at ways in which we can improve the access that particularly the African-American community can have towards getting contracts, getting certified, number one, and having access to that. When we had 209, it in many ways became a stumbling block that many of the contractors know and say, well, we don't have to hire based upon race and or gender. And we have seen a dwindling of the data. When we look at what we used to have when Tom Bradley was in, of course, we had an affirmative action policy that was at play, but minorities had approximately 15% in the City of Los Angeles of contracts that we let out. Today, it is collectively among all of the minorities, not just simply African Americans, a general number of around 6%. So you have approximately 2.3% of Latinos who do business in terms of looking at contracting. You have approximately 2.2% of Asian Americans having contracting work. And then African Americans, not even one quality point, 0.3%. So in many ways, the data tells the story in terms of what impact we have had on Proposition 209. And so, yes, it is a very Herculean strategy to make sure that we have more business inclusion, but it's a good fight. We have implemented a policy just recently that will help, hopefully, to increase the numbers of jobs that we have. I, along with my colleague, Jessica Colosa, who's an Asian American member of the Board of Public Works, have put together a community contracting policy for the Board of Public Works. Through this contracting, community level contracting to be exact, we will take and debundle big multi-million-dollar contracts and put them down to reasonably sized financial contracts in the amounts of somewhere around $100,000, $150,000, which will increase the opportunities for more smaller businesses to get work. We know that in a city like Los Angeles, when you look at the data, smaller businesses certainly include a significant number of people from minority communities. So this is one of the measures that we are offering, has already been passed. We are already working on implementing it. That will be a solution to helping to increase more opportunities for minority businesses, and particularly to make sure that African-American communities get a part of that benefit. So in a nutshell, as we look at what we're doing in public works, that is the direction that we are taking, and also research that I have done about prime contractors and what is it that helps them to not have achieved more diversity. Again, 209 has been the policy. We attempted to pass it under Prop 16. We were unsuccessful in doing so. But we know that while prime contractors make the final decision as to who's included in as subcontractors, that we must be vigilant in our communication. We have an interpretation by certainly the city attorney's office and others that Proposition 209 says that you cannot give a preference to people based upon race. You cannot give a preference based to companies based upon gender. However, what we don't hear an advocacy for is what Proposition 209 also says. And what Proposition also says, 209 also says, is that you cannot discriminate against companies based upon the fact that they are a certain race or a certain gender. And if in fact you do, there is a provision that will allow for a disparity study, after which, if it results in a confirmation that there has been a group specifically based upon those variables that has been discriminated against, then the implementation of what amounts to be a set-aside program correcting that wrong, that action can take place. And so nobody has done a disparity study, or if there has been a disparity study, I've not heard of any results of such. But I think when we look at the interpretation and the analysis of Proposition 209, we have failed to look at it comprehensively. We have focused on the major, of course, promotion, which is we cannot give preference, but we have not looked at that remote variable in it that says you cannot discriminate. So in a nutshell, we bounce back and forth from trying to make sure that we have a comprehensive analysis of Proposition 209, that secondly, we educate and increase the awareness of prime contractors because they can hire who they want to hire. And that hopefully behaviorally, they will understand that what we seek in this city is to have those who get to provide the service to reflect those who are being served. Finally, I will say that Mayor Eric Garcetti last year, after COVID-19, after the various interchanges between Black Lives Matter and those who are in government service, that he came up with a policy in the city that changes the executive direction in which this city should go. He implemented during that time Executive Order 27 in the city of Los Angeles. And here is what Executive Order 27 does. It does three things. One, it mandates an executive representative for each of the 43 departments in the city of Los Angeles to have a racial equity officer. So every unit in the city of Los Angeles has a racial equity officer. Secondly, it requires that we have a racial equity committee in each of those offices. And third, we have a racial equity plan that is overseen by the director and the committee for each single department in the city of Los Angeles. So despite what the state law says, 209, and there are at least approximately 10 other states in the United States of America that have these so-called colorblind policies like 209, which were initially promoted under the pretense that it was a civil rights initiative. Michigan has it, Indiana has it, the state of Washington has it, and there are several other states that have it. They are called colorblind policies. Well, we know what the result of a colorblind policy is. It sounds as if it's going to be civil rights, and I'm sure maybe some of our misguided voters who are minorities thought that it was going to be a civil rights opportunity. We're not going to choose you based upon race or gender. We're going to choose you based upon merit. Well, the proof of the pudding, as your grandparents told you, is in the eating. And the data I discussed with you from the city of Los Angeles is the proof in the pudding. What we really have now as a result of it. So, ladies and gentlemen, in a nutshell, as we look at the city of Los Angeles Department of Public Works and the $500 million that it affords the economy in Southern California, and the data that tells us after the implementation of 209 what we have, then we know that we have much work to do. When we look at the action that we just had implemented by Mayor Eric Garcetti, it gives us something locally to hang our hat on, that despite what the state wants to do, this is the vision that we envision for the city of Los Angeles. And so in a nutshell, that is the landscape as we look at business inclusion, as we look at your publicly funded construction projects. And when we look at not only this state law, but the federal law of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, which says equal protection of the law. And what that means is that everybody in a same jurisdiction ought to have the same access. So if one group can come into your publicly funded environment and grow and develop to a certain level, then every other group ought to have access, equal access, to have that same level of growth and development. And our data tells us the story in terms of where we are, even before we would even look at a disparity study as is provided by Proposition 209 that will, through the courts, confirm whether in fact discrimination against a certain group is or is not going on. We know that administratively having the data from the department is a great sample for us as to which way the winds are blowing and what is happening. So with that, I will take questions.
Mike, you've done a wonderful job laying out the framework that we can have this conversation under. I truly believe I don't believe in supplier diversity. I believe in supply chain inclusion. And I think that, with this ED 27 that Garcetti has put out, laying that framework provides the impetus for us to be able to follow and see what really happens, right? And then the other piece, the other part that I like that you talked about, I like the idea that they're looking at these primes. The question is, does the prime have a supply chain inclusion policy? And who signed it? Because it needs to be from the top of the house. And secondarily, the matrix that they could provide to you, saying we went out and hired, we looked at 45 companies, we narrowed it down to 12, we picked 3. Let's show me your track record, right? Sure. And I'm from Missouri. Sure. I am straight up from Missouri. Sure. So my questions to you is, how do everybody likes to do these workshops about how to do business with them, but no one hosts a workshop on how how they can do business with a small business. I heard you say that these contracts are going to be divided up, that you're going to be working with the primes. Give us an example. I don't know how early on we are with this, But give us an example of a success story with that process, because go ahead.
Yeah, with the current policy of community level contracting, where we have broken down the smaller contracts.
Correct.
I'm glad you asked that question. First, we have had a pilot of community level contracting, and unfortunately, it didn't come willingly. It came as a result of the Willits case. The Willits case was a federal case against the city because we did not provide equal access for the disabled. As a result of that, we had a ruling from the federal court that we have to invest $30 million towards the restructuring and construction of assets of disability processes in construction. We captured, after that decision of the federal court, the opportunity to use this as a chance in which to have more business inclusion. If we're going to have to spend these $30 million, and annually we have to do it until such time we come up to compliance, then that is a mandated area of construction work that unfortunately we did not initiate on our own, but we captured the opportunity. So the Bureau of Contract Administration used that, and they did contracts that were around $100,000, $150,000 in there. And that pilot project netted more small businesses that lived in Los Angeles, if you know what I mean. And so then we were able to see from what happened from the Willits case and our commitment to have to do more construction around disability services, that measure would help us to increase the numbers of small and women-owned businesses that are from Los Angeles. And so when you ask what has these processes netted, that's the first example. And so then we decided to institutionalize that method by doing the policy of community level contracting.
You know, and when you look at public works is a huge, and most people only think about pavement and roads and all of that kind of carrying on, but you have office facilities that have to have services in them that some of these local businesses would be able to participate in. You know, we have Ardina, who's one of our regulars here, who's an artist. You know, we have the Bobeckis, you know, who have an exceptional business. They understand capacity and scalability. We have Miss Emily Owens, who's on here. We have some regulars who are on here every week looking for an opportunity to do business with the city, with the county, with the state, where they live, where they're paying their tax dollars. So what would be the process? Well, tell us what the process would be for these businesses. And when you look at the SBA definition of small business, that's a $10 million business, right? So when you say small business, are we talking about, 3 years of experience, $1 million in revenue? Give us a definition, and it could be broad. Give us a definition of a small business, and then tell us how these small businesses that are on here weekly with us, looking for these kinds of resources, how do they get involved? And then there's questions in the chat box that we're going to turn to.
When we look at policy in the city of Los Angeles, I guess one of the strengths is that we look at each one of our administrative units as their own corporation. So what I'm saying to you is that the airport may have one set of rules that differs from public works, which is another department that has a different set of rules, yet that is different from the Department of Water and Power that has another set of rules. So some of our departments have a rule where 20% of their work will automatically go to small businesses. And remember, under 209, we cannot talk minority and women-owned. However, we have two kinds of projects in our landscape. We have locally funded contracts. These are the ones, as I call, under the spell of 209. That's half of our portfolio. So of the $500,000, $250,000 would be locally funded projects that are under the spell of 209. And then on the other hand, we would have the other $250 million that would be federally funded. The federal government basically says, we don't care what y'all do, but if you use our federal dollars, you're coming in with some diversity. So on our federal projects, you'll find that there is more diversity,
Okay.
and that you do have to hire women and minorities. But on the locally funded projects, an area in which I study and I specialize in, is that we have to come up with innovative ways in which we can try to still achieve diversity on those projects. So that's the landscape of what we're dealing with. And so when we look at what can we do to have more minority business inclusion, we have to talk to the prime contractors. One of the things I do is every African American Heritage Month on an annual basis, I identify the top 3 firms that have hired not just minorities, but have hired African Americans in particular. And I call them out and I recognize them. And the reason why I can pick them out, because I'm not under the spell of 209, as I say, because this is just a matter of fact. It's not something I'm trying to influence. It is something that I recognize that already exists. Despite the fact that you have 209, these companies that I recognize on an annual basis have ended up hiring African Americans. And why did I pick that out? Because when I looked at the data, we were not even 1 quality point of those people getting contracts, 0.3%, not even 1%. So in terms of trying to change the culture, I want other contractors to see that these contractors that we are recognizing reflect the values that the leaders in the city council have in the city of Los Angeles. And most importantly, that the mayor of the city of Los Angeles, they respect these values. And under 209, you can choose who you want to, but we like the fact that these companies have somehow ended up finding some African Americans when the majority of the firms haven't been able to find them. So that's an example as to, as a board member, what we can do to help change the culture is recognize who it is that is doing what we want to be done, as well as we complain about those who have not.
Well, that competition, rank stacking and creating competition is always a good way to go. I'm going to go into and, want to check out the city of Los Angeles, the Bavin. Certainly everybody needs to register on Bavin. And
Yes.
you make sure you put your NAICS codes and your SIC codes in there. But part of that is there's 12 million, 49 million, and folks would just like to be able to work in their own community, in their own neighborhood, that type of thing. And then I want to correct you. I didn't mention minority or women because I knew that was is not a criteria for this conversation for a small business. So that's why I'm spoken.
Okay, got you. Okay, got you.
So Gregory Sneed, from the public works standpoint, what is the city doing to abate vehicular traffic, especially at the Metrolink crossings, both elevated and graded?
What are we doing to repeat that again? I'm sorry.
What is the city doing to abate vehicular traffic congestion at these metro crossings, the elevated and at the graded?
Is he inferring because of the construction of the metro rail, or just in general? Let me answer both of those questions. In general, there are various strategies that Metro has. They come before the Board of Public Works to get their plans approved whenever they are cutting off traffic, or they are doing construction that will have to alter traffic. They come to us on that. At the same time, there are various strategies of engineering that they have to decrease traffic by implementing strategies on surrounding streets, by redirecting directions of traffic in various areas. And the strategy implemented in one area is unique to that area in terms of what they do. So from an engineering perspective, you will find some different kinds of engineering strategies with traffic being done. And it just depends. I don't know what specific area in particular that comes to mind. And I do know that traffic is our biggest stumbling block, but that MTA is responsible for implementing those. One of the things in terms of engineering you will see and a new effort towards is the turnarounds where you have these circular construction roads put in areas that will help to alleviate some traffic congestion by engineering expectations. And so there are other engineering strategies that are done uniquely for each area as it relates to traffic.
Crystal, you want to take over?
Yes. Greg also had a question on how can our youth gain work in LA City Public Works? And are they hiring and who are they to contact?
Our youth, certainly we have a public works contract administration office who would be able to help you in terms of seeing how we could fit youth in. Primarily, we have project labor agreements, is a relationship we have with the unions. And I know that in the past, getting young people from our various communities in that program will allow them to get apprenticeships. And even after the job that they might be lucky to get as their first job, after having a relationship with the unions, they will develop a skill that will sustain them from being unemployed in future opportunities that might come up in working. We have a young man by the name of Ian Smith, I think is Ian's last name, Ian Monteith, who is the project labor agreement representative for the city of Los Angeles in our Bureau of Contract Administration. I will give you a number of 213-847-2676 as a number for contract administration. Ask to speak to Ian Monteith, M-O-N-T-I-T-E-I-T-H, who is the point person for our project labor agreements. And in summary, when we have a project, many times in which it does not have a lot of people from our area, we will have a project labor agreement that will come in with these individuals who've been trained by the union. And because many of those people are from our community, it adds an additional flavor that people who are working on the project also came from the community, but they have been trained. So how can young people get involved in their relationship with the union? Not only will they be involved, but they will gain a skill that will sustain them for future work.
Fantastic, because it's very important that we create successions in all of our departments in the city, so that our young people can be prepared to take over when our more experienced people come, and when it comes time for them to retire. Then you can kind of open up the door to bring in others. And I think that's something that's been missing in this state, or any state actually, is making sure that we have a succession plan that incorporates our young people coming out of college. You know, we're living in a time when we have the most educated young people on the planet right now. And being able to position them so that they can get good jobs to take care of their future families is, I believe, our responsibility as leaders and stakeholders.
Sure. You talked about inclusion of young people in jobs. Another committee that I happen to chair is the HBCU Engineering Recruitment Committee. This doesn't deal with contract, it deals with jobs. And that was a part of Prop 209 as well. It was contracting, it was education, but it was also jobs, government jobs. Well, when we look at the data as it relates to engineering jobs in the city of Los Angeles, Blacks are about approximately 10% of Los Angeles's population from the last census. And when we look at the engineers, once again, they are the most underrepresented. When I took on the job to chair this committee, it has all of the engineering hiring committees in the city of Los Angeles that are members of this committee. When I took on the job, I immediately did a survey as to why we were 3% when we started. Asian Americans are 32%. They are 11% of Los Angeles's population. And then Latinos are 25%, and whites are 28% of the engineering population. So why can we not find any African Americans? Well, in doing a survey, looking at the colleges and universities in the Los Angeles County area, there is an underrepresentation of African Americans matriculating, enrolling in engineering schools. USC, UCLA, a publicly funded institution, had 3% African Americans. And yet, when we look at other minorities, they have been able to to grow and prosper in enrollment at UCLA as just one example, than have African Americans. Asian Americans were upward of 27, 28%. Latinos certainly have significantly grown. So no surprise if it was 3% African Americans at UCLA and 3% engineers in the city of Los Angeles when we first started. I say that to say that as we look at the area of employment, it too suffered in terms of the data. And so what we ended up doing is I happen to have had a conversation with Dr. Keith from Tennessee State University, who's an engineer there, the chair of the engineering department, and worked with Dr. Chance from Alabama A&M. And the Council of African American Engineers became a collaborator in our work here in the city. And we were able to, through networking with recruiting, the majority of the engineers who were not getting accepted to UCLA, they went to, guess where? Southern University Engineering Program, Howard University Engineering Program, North Carolina A&T program, or either with Dr. Keith Hargrave's Tennessee State. And so we were able to increase by 37 African-American engineers, the membership of engineers in the city of Los Angeles. Additionally, when I looked at the numbers in terms of who is enrolled at UCLA's engineering program, and for example, North Carolina A&T has 250 approximately African-American engineers who are seniors, who are ready to go. And so this relationship led me to increase our recruitment at engineering conferences. And we have added the BEA conference, which stands for Black Engineer of the Year Awards Conference, which is the product of the Council of Black Engineering Deans in the United States of America, meaning that all of the deans of engineering in the United States who are at historically Black colleges and universities help to coordinate this conference. And so we now are able to go there and in one room in Washington, D.C., on one weekend, we're able to network with, recruit, and interview African-American engineers who are ready to go to work, all in one weekend.
That's excellent.
So this is an example of filling in the gaps, but you have to do the survey to find out what's going on. If we keep going to the schools around here, we're going to keep getting the numbers that we're getting around here. And so we have moved forward. And what kind of feedback are we getting? Well, you'll always hear them say, well, we don't need to be going out of the state. We don't need to be going anywhere else. We need to go to UCLA. Well, we went to UCLA and you saw what we came back with.
Yeah,
the other thing is we are able to get young men who, in our sanitation department, we have a young man from Southern University. He lived right there in Carson. So this whole thing about we don't want anybody from somewhere else, first of all, we are an international city. We're multicultural. We are multinational. We have people from somewhere else, and you talk about people from somewhere else in California and in Los Angeles in particular all the time. And as long as we're getting federal dollars, we can have somebody from somewhere else.
You know what, Michael?
So we're an international city.
This is good.
And furthermore, when we go to recruit, we are bringing back home Los Angelinos. Many of these folk are at Florida A&M University. They're at North Carolina A&T. They are at Virginia Union. They're at Hampton, and they're coming back home. Some of them go there, not because they didn't get accepted to UCLA, but some of them go because that's where daddy went, and that's where mama went, and that's where grandmama went. And like anybody else in any other house or neighborhood in Los Angeles, if you went to USC, I went to USC. I did my graduate work there, but we have people here who went to SC because mommy and daddy went there. Okay, well, don't be ignorant to the fact that there are some people that went to Howard and some people that went to Florida A&M, and that their mothers and fathers deserve the same opportunity for legacy that everyone else does. So this is the work that we have been doing as it relates to integrating and including in jobs, in employment, And what we have discovered is that not only in public contracting, but in government jobs, and also in this same story I shared with you, what impact it has had in public education, 3% at UCLA.
These are some great insight, and we probably need to have you back on, because I would love to hear about this HBCU Engineer Contracting Committee. I truly believe that going away from home builds a different kind of individual when they come back from college. Couple of more questions, because we're winding down with our time.
Sure.
And I love this. This has been my soapbox. Colette Moore, contractors will often send solicitations to certified vendors as a check the box activity. People do supplier diversity as a check the box activity. Can something be added to show that small minority businesses, or small business, we'll just say small businesses, that are capable, that these businesses truly are including them in their search versus just a check the box syndrome? Should this be required to provide response data? Should the response data be a requirement? And I used to say, when I worked for US Bank and we were doing RFPs for public work activity to do be banking and what have you, I don't want best efforts. I want documented effort. So that's what Colette is talking about. How can we get documented effort that that these companies are being solicited, and then nothing comes of it. And then one other final follow-up.
You have pointed out an area where we need to do deeper oversight, but we do have a system in Bavin that allows us to check and supervise what a prime contractor has done. If in fact he has subcontractors, he has to document that in Bavin. We are able then to take that data and verify it through our contract administration bureau, and I oversee contract administration. So we're able to do that. But what you have touched on is that there are other loopholes that appear. Oftentimes people will go through, call them, and then they'll do some changes and not follow through. And then oftentimes we'll have, on occasion, someone that said that somebody was going to be on the contract, and we look on and they've done that work themselves. Well, they get fined for doing so. In some of our conferences, and we try to have many, one of the advocates, small business advocates, says this good faith effort ends up being a good fake effort. And so we want to make sure that we follow through on what we can verify on Bavin, and that we talk to prime contractors to understand what our vision is. I've found that I think we who work for the city can have more conversations with prime contractors about what our vision is. People are very perceptive about which way the wind is blowing. And when they don't see and hear us talking about what our vision is that we want to have a city whose employment reflects the people who pay the taxes and who are being served. And they need to hear it. And so I know that they can do it, because there have been several instances that have come up in the board meeting where I have witnessed the things that we say as administrators that prime contractors have heard. So I'm adding to that another thing they need to hear is our vision. And I will say in conclusion, as it relates to this point, the mayor's implementation of Executive Order 27 helps push the breeze of which way the wind is blowing. When you have a policy that says we want an equity plan, it helps to blow the breeze towards the vision that we say we have. And so that's critically important. And I think as a result of this push, it will be a foundation upon which we can talk to prime contractors, because we don't need a law. If a prime contractor wants to hire an African-American, he could just hire them. So if we talk to them in ways that they can buy into our vision, we could really change, hopefully, the culture. And again, that is why I recognize those who do hire specifically African-Americans. If you hire African-Americans, then everybody's getting hired.
Well, you
I
know,
think,
Michael, this has been a great conversation and we've kind of run out of time. There were some excellent comments and feedback in the chat box. So if you don't mind, hit your chat box and hit those 3 little dots and copy that.
Sure.
You know, there's some follow-up questions that we need to get some answers to. So we're going to have you back because
Sure,
I
I'd
would
love
like
to
to,
come
I would
back.
like to hear some results from this new thought process
Sure.
that Public Works has come up with. It blows my mind that I got involved in procurement in 2006, and we're still talking about the same stuff. You know, we're kind of still
Sure.
talking about the fact that, you know, people go register in this portal and what happens to the portal. And I'm glad that you told me you oversee contracts administration. You understand, you oversee a lot of what I call compliance in this
Yes.
process. And we'd love to be able to have you come back and give us an update because folks are being discouraged. You know,
Sure.
folks are still, they're trying to figure out how to make money. And it's like I tell them, it's not free. All of this stuff is your tax dollars at work.
That is
And
correct.
so we'd love to be able to have you back. And again, especially if you can work with these companies who are saying that they're having trouble finding Black
Yes.
engineers, Black scientists,
Yes.
you know, the STEM folks. Because again, we're losing people out of the state of California. We're losing the race of having people
Sure.
participate. And so again, we want to thank you for today, but we still got we need some deeper
Yes.
conversation
I'm
based on the framework that you've laid out. And then I got a couple of 2 or 3 people that I'm going to introduce you to, one of
Sure.
them being Michael Anderson,
Sure.
I'm working on a project with him.
Oh, yes.
That's getting past this Proposition 209 piece
Yes.
that keeps us from being able to, you know, actively engaged. But again, we want to thank you. You know, we know you're there. It's just
Sure.
a matter of who's there helping you to push.
Sure.
And so
Sure.
please use the community briefing as a landing place for you to come share information and give us some marching orders on how we can help.
Sure.
Michael and Commissioner Davis, on behalf of all of us, the Black Business Association, Secretary McDonald, thank you. My name is Stephen Turner, and you mentioned one area, lack of Black engineers. We have the listeners on the line who has a brief comment on how to address that.
Sure.
Omni?
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, Stephen, and good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning.
You know, first, I just want to commend Commissioner Davis. I've worked with you and we're continually working together on different committees you know, what you're doing in the community. I just want to commend you for that and your commitment to the improvement of inclusion in not only minority community, but just in general here in the Los Angeles area. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Secondly, as a civil engineer and a graduate of UCLA, I did do my master's in engineering from UCLA. I just want to say that, you know, all of what you're doing to improve more inclusion of African-American engineers is exceptional. One of the many things that we see that's happening within the engineering industry is that there's a huge decline of interest from our community. So one of the things that I would suggest is that we do is we you know, as a mentor, and I've mentored a lot of students that have become engineers today. I think that we should continue mentoring and start the mentorship from elementary school through high school in ensuring that we engage students in their interest in going towards you know, being an engineer. I will tell you right now, as an engineer, it is the hardest major to go through in
Sure,
college.
I can imagine. I don't even know what the lobby looks like in the engineering building where I went to school.
You know, I'll tell you, you know, when I first started as an engineering student, as a freshman at Cal State University Northridge, there were hundreds of us that are African Americans that were in the program. But by the time we graduated, it was a handful of us. So, you know, the commitment, the engagement, the resources, we have to make it known to the community and start the mentoring from, you know, elementary school. I'll tell you this, sometimes when we do go into the community and speak on what we do as engineers, a lot of people say, oh, I've never met a woman engineer before in my life. You know what I mean? So this is my first time meeting them. So I think the exposure that we are here, it can be done. Yes, it is hard, but there are resources out there to help. So that's just one of the many comments, and I'll stop right there because of time.
Well, yeah, I would just one sentence say it's amazing how in one university you may have maybe 10 African Americans, and then in another, like at North Carolina A&T, we have 1,200 African Americans that are in engineering program, 250 of whom are graduating. And so I like the fact that African Americans have discovered where they can go to keep the ball rolling.
I think that's fantastic. You've been awesome. There's a comment on Facebook, Mike, that they feel you should be running for mayor.
Well, they tell me there's a woman that may be running for mayor out there, and there are several other people that are running too. So let's see what happens.
Just wanted to pass on the message.
Yes, yes.
The seat is open. Thank
Yes,
you so much.
So Mike, next week we have a young man, Michael Anderson, who has some feedback he'd like to share with you about how he's getting around this whole Proposition 209. If you have time, join us. And
I would love to do that.
And he's someone that I want you to have a conversation with, because what he's working on is transit-focused for-sale housing to create generational wealth and to repair our Black and brown neighborhoods. So
Wonderful.
He's going to be on next week. But right now we need to roll because we have
Sure.
our business correspondent
Okay.
here today.
Well, I'd like to
Thank you
leave
so
the
much.
telephone number for minority companies that want to be certified by the city, 213-847-2676 for certification. 847-2676.
And we definitely going to have you back on because you're a wealth of information. And I think we have to be very definitive about making changes in our community, and
Sure.
and very creative on how to go around things that's trying to prevent us from being successful in this city
Yes.
and any other city. So
That's right.
Side conversation.
Yes,
So,
yes.
Thank
Hey.
you, Michael. We so
Yes,
appreciate
thank you
having-
all. Thank you all. You all are doing a wonderful job, and it was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Michael,
you.
always good to see you as well.
Pleasure,
too.
pleasure,
So-
Ms. Phillips. Call me anytime.
Correct.
All right. So, yeah,
Yes.
Michael, so good to see you. And I want you to know that we do certification. We train on certification for the city, the county
Okay.
as well. And I would love to see more of our clients getting opportunities, because we are constantly training in this area. And I think that there's certainly new things that we can do, but I'd like to hear more people getting opportunities and getting, jobs with this. And I appreciate all the engineering talk. You guys may not know I'm an engineering graduate from SC.
That's right.
Many
I
years
remember.
ago, right? And sometimes
yeah.
I wonder how I got out, but I did and practiced
Yes.
for several years.
Yes, yes.
So I
absolutely.
understand it is difficult, but at the time the NSF there were a lot of mentoring type programs for engineering. And so I agree with those conversations, Ms. Livingston, on how we need to mentor more to get the engineers back in and let them know it's a very viable degree. It can be done, and that there's help to get it done. So appreciate that. So you guys, I won't be long. I just wanted to share a couple of things from SBDC. I just wanted to remind everybody, PPP forgiveness, the SBA is looking to start closing out forgiveness, particularly for that first round. So if you have not gotten your forgiveness, please go through and make sure you do it, get help. We're doing this workshop until everybody is forgiven on every Thursday, 2 to 3 o'clock. It digs in the weeds, and they will help you actually walk through this application. And so please get some help here. That idle loan, and then the next one is the idle loan is still
Colette, can you
open.
make it a little bigger for us?
Yeah. Can you give us the presenter's view?
Oh, you
Oh,
need
you
to.
can't see it?
No, we can't.
Okay, let me stop and let me try to reshare. Can you
There
see
you
it
go.
now?
Yes.
Now we
Okay.
can see it.
Okay, great. All right, and then let me just, this is the PPP and this is the link, and I'll share that with you. And you guys, I'll drop this into the chat so you can have this presentation. But the PPP is a loan that with forgiveness becomes a grant. So we want grants for this program. So please make sure to do that. Apply urgently. EIDL ends at the end of this year. And even if you're not doing the loan, one of the things that we're finding is that they're using this entry point to give people grants in certain communities. And so right now it's low income communities that maybe you didn't qualify for the loan, but those same people, if you applied and you're in certain geographics, and there's a map, we teach this on Wednesday, that people are getting grants. They get an invitation, but you have to have applied for the EIDL in order to be a possible grantee. So I encourage you all, typically we don't say, oh, go and apply for a loan if you don't need it. But this particular loan, what we're finding is that it is an opportunity for grants for people that may not qualify for a loan. So I encourage you to take a look at that. And then I did receive a question regarding the California Relief Grant that reopens on September 9th for anyone that has not already applied. So if you are a new business applying, that starts September 9th, and we can assist you with that. And you just, as long as you're making under 2.5 million, you can apply for that. And we want you to be able to get those funds. And so anybody that had applied previously, they've been going through the wait list, all of the waitlisted applicants. And so you should be hearing, make sure to check your spam and check to see if you got that email, because it seems to be slipping through because it was so long ago, you may not even be thinking about it, right? Or missed it. So make sure to check your spam, be on the lookout if you had previously applied for this. And then just to mention PCR, we continue to have loans available for small businesses. So when you work with the advisors, we can assist you with anywhere up to 2.5 million. The new California State Guarantee Loan is up to 2.5 million now. And it was only $1 million during like the peak of COVID, but they've added that up. So there is more money available. And then there are a couple of grants just for Black-owned restaurants that I was able to find, I wanted to share. One is this James Beard Foundation. So please share this with restaurants that you are familiar with. It started August 27th, it goes to September 10th. So have people apply right away. The link is in here for you to be able to use. And that's for Black restaurants. Then there's another one that's coming soon. It's one of the founding partners is Amex, and it's a coalition for backed Black businesses. So this one starts September 14th. The link is there. And so you can go through, review the requirements and make sure you know that you're eligible. And then awards, the application starts on the 23rd. So this is upcoming, but you know, you can get ready and make sure that your documents are ready. Then there are 4 other kind of new other funding sources, the Barstool Fund, I Fund Women, Jane Walker, and then the Women's Business Development Council. So a lot for the women on the call for that we've seen. And those are like happening right now, like this Women's Business Development Grant, and they have different requirements. Some have matched. So go through and take a look. The closest one is that Women's Business Development Council, and then the Jane Walker I Fund. Then just a couple of other things. This new program is coming out, state program for rent relief. If you or someone needs rent relief, this is they have an application, and this is for landlords and renters. So any landlord businesses on the phone, you might be able to benefit from this. And then finally, just our resource webinars, mention that certification. We have this workshop, Clearing the Fog of Certification, and Jack Ochoa is our advisor that helps in terms of the certification piece. Robin has been a great resource for us on the procurement side. We have another advisor, Karen Blackwell, as well. We're really trying to get better at this procurement side. We've got to be able to get this money from these organizations that we pay our taxes for too. And so how do we make sure to do that? But if you are still looking for lending, every Wednesday workshop, PPP forgiveness today and every Thursday, clearing the fog, and then going on through as well. And you can click your link there. So that is it for me. I know you're at the 12 o'clock hour. I will put the link in so that you will have access to this presentation as well. But thank you all for the time. I was happy to be able to present and just find some opportunities that were just for African-American businesses to share with you as well. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Colette, and especially I think we really need to push out that about the renters relief, because now that the Biden's plan's been rejected for the moratorium lift, I read somewhere across the United States about 2.3 million people were going to be evicted, which from their apartments and homes and so forth. So that's critical, especially when we already have 100 and something thousand people sitting on the street today that we need to deal with. So I will make sure I push that out. And thanks for the additional grants for women. I've been counseling women all week long, and I was looking for more resources. So thank you so much for compiling that. Now I can go back to them and give that. You guys have been awesome. Commissioner Davis, incredible information. This is what this platform is all about. We want to make sure you come back, because I think you have so much more. Sure. And I like the way you're thinking that we should never be thinking in the box. We should be thinking out of the box in order to make sure,
all the time,
because we need out of the box thinking in the Black community.
That's right. Let's do it.
Yeah. So guys, it's been fantastic. Next week, come back, bring some friends. We got the amazing Mr. Michael Anderson and his incredible book. By the way, Michael, my co-partner with Recycle Black Dollars, she wants to get 4 copies of the book. She's reading it. She is just excited and she wants to meet you. So I will make that connection for you guys. But and I think she's probably wanting to have it for her book club meetings. So I'll make sure you guys meet. Thank you so much, Stephen, for bringing Mr. Commissioner Davis to us, Dr. Davis to us, and everyone else. And Colette, we couldn't do it without you every week. We enjoy you all. Come back next week, guys. The link for this will be on our community briefing website, so go over to communitybriefing.com. You can find out who our future guests are going to be, and as well as the links for our previous guests. And as well, you can go to the Business Zone YouTube channel and find us there as well. So thank you guys so much. Stephen, did you want to introduce yourself before you tapped out?
No, Stephen Turner, General Principal of the Slayton Group. I'd like to thank everyone. Tune in next week for the fabulous Michael Anderson, as well as future guests. Go to our website.
So, guys.
The other thing that I wanted to say is, you guys, please make sure you hit those 3 dots and copy the chat box, because Michael Browning has put some excellent information in there. A lot of our regulars have put some excellent information there. And if you hit those 3 little dots, it will download for you the whole chat box, the contact information and all of that. So take advantage of that.
And I also like to end with the wisdom that Commissioner Davis shared with us. There's so much more. And he's been a wealth of information, knowing him over the years regarding voting, redistricting, the recall. Commissioner Davis, can you leave us on the recall issue, where you stand and how we can support that?
Sure. The recall is just a grab of power from one party to the next. And unfortunately, the next party that is seeking to do it is the same party that bought us 209. It's the same party that made sure that there was exclusion on so many quality of life issues. The governor has done, I believe, a yeoman's job in terms of policy and protecting Californians in COVID-19. He has also done executive orders, as Mrs. Billups has said, that speak to supporting the California voluntary commitment to reduction on environmental issues like water use, He's made sure that there's adequate staffing at hospitals even right now because of the Delta variant, aside from COVID-19 and the wildfires. Don't forget about the various issues that are unique to California. Many of us don't live on the Hill, but many people do. And so they are critically important issues that the governor, housing is a big issue for him. So yeah, the governor head and shoulders above. And if you think that other guy is Black past his face, then God bless you. No on the recall.
No, Michael,
and go.
Commissioner Davis,
No
enough
and
said,
go.
okay?
And here's the thing, guys.
No
And go, right. So, and here's the thing, for me, when it comes to Black people, if somebody is trying to take something away from you, it has so much value to it. So make sure you get out and vote. Teach your children, your 18-year-olds about voting. We have to be proactive in order to save ourselves. Nobody's saving us. They don't care about us. They want us to disappear. So anytime somebody's trying to take your power, there's a reason why they're trying to take your power. Know this and counteract that. That should be your counteraction, is to counteract that. Go out and vote. Drag folks to the voting polls if you have to. Put them in your car and drag them and make them vote. It is so important because of 209, because what we just saw in Texas yesterday. Do you not think that cannot happen in the state of California if we change from a Democratic state to a Republican state? So know that the reason they're doing this is because they are going to be the minority. They are going through all kinds of guerrilla tactics to make sure they stay the majority and the dominant race. That is why this is happening. So if they want to get you pregnant so that you can increase the numbers, they don't care how they're doing it. They just gonna do it. As Jake Topper said, they're diabolical. We need to be diabolical in our thinking as well. They are diabolical. So don't put anything past them. So with that, and we'll all get off our soapboxes, but go out and vote on the 14th. Make sure guys get vaccinated. It's so important. I don't know what kind of rationale you have to use. We have to get beyond COVID, but we can't get beyond COVID if we're not protecting ourselves. So social distance, make sure that we are proactive in protecting ourselves and our community. So you guys be safe, and we will see you next week. Michael will be here with his bells on, talking about his project, and we will be happy to see you guys continue to support the community briefing. We so appreciate you, and we wish you guys a great week and a great weekend. Bye-bye to next Thursday.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Very cool. Very, very good show.
Mike Davis, good to see you. Good to see you.